Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Austin Whitsitt, John Kays, DL Hill, Julian Jeremiah, Maxi Tyken, Michael Kahn, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Troy Shuker, Bose Nail, Samson, Maris, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Open Minded, Dal West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, theflatearthchannel.com, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show.
Yeah. That little 60-second blip.
I did another one, actually.
Brittington.
I released one this morning as well. That was just a...
Oh,
yeah, that was just a trailer for the 3-minute clip. So that went out with what was just a premiere ready to go, but then became obviously a real video that's nearly 4 minutes long. But the 60-second one you're talking about was just a trailer I did. I just hacked off the last 60 seconds, basically.
it's funny.
What were you going to say, Neil?
No, I was just answering him. Pat Brittington, right? That's his name?
Yeah.
Got into it with Jazzer a little bit at Gems today.
Say again. What did you say?
I got into it with Jazzaconda a little bit today on Gem Pandas this morning with his nonsense to move the phases of the moon, prove flat spherical Earth with his orbits and his tidal lock and all of that nonsense.
You going to fill us in? Take us through the discussion, Neil. You have to play both
Well,
parties when you're telling your story.
Yeah, he was saying that there's no way it could be a flat Earth because the people in the northern hemisphere and the people in the southern hemisphere are seeing the same thing, and we all see the moon the same way. So I told him right off the top, what's a hemisphere? Once you go into hemispheres, you're already putting us on a ball, and we're not on a ball. You got to prove this ball we're on.
Good so far. Is that where the conversation ended? I doubt it.
Well, he's with his making fun of the way I talk and everything. I said, yeah, it's pretty sad that a guy from Brooklyn with no education is making you look like an idiot.
So it descended into a personal attack or ad hominem against the point you were making regards his begging the question assumption of an atmosphere and hemispheres, right?
Exactly. I mean, he's kidding around. I don't mind, but, I used it for my advantage. I said, yeah, it's pretty sad that an uneducated construction worker from Brooklyn is making you look stupid because you're assuming we're on a sphere without proving we're on a sphere. With your equator line, what are they? Tell me what they are. And you're talking about orbits. What's an orbit? So anyway, what pissed me off, though, was whoever the moderator was. I think Stacy was on there, too. And he was trying to get his point that the phases of the moon, just the moon itself, debunks flat Earth. And the guy even said, well, Jazzy, you pretty much failed. But on the other hand, Neil Cosentino thinks he can come here with this cesspool reasoning that they do on the Nathan Oakley show. And then from there, I told him to go F himself.
I see. Cesspool.
Good afternoon.
A flat-side.
Yeah, in other words, because when I was speaking, I was getting excited. So, you know, but I wasn't cursing or anything. I was just calling him an idiot. Every time he would begin to start with the orbits and the hemisphere and southern hemisphere, I would stop him in his tracks right there. So anyway, yeah, that's what the guy said. He thinks he can come here with Nathan Oakley and the cesspool. Oh, yeah, that's what he said. The cesspool over there on the Nathan Oakley show. And then I did lose it. I told him to do something, and I left.
Well, it shows you the level of maturity the guys have.
Yeah, stupid smelly bottoms.
We should buy them diapers.
Well, because it blows my testimony, because I'm a professing Christian. And when I get upset and I tell somebody to shut the F up and go F themselves, it just kind of ruins the testimony. So I pretty much got a handle on it, but I couldn't take it today.
Hey, we all get to a point where you can't handle it.
No, it's just that he's treating people like idiots. You know, this hemisphere and this and that.
Try and imagine that he's actually selling that to himself. Yeah? Now, he thinks he's selling it to you. This is the anti-flat earth way. So, it's cognitive pain, cognitive dissonance that they're experiencing. And they want to project that out. When we say, oh, you're just projecting, when they call you an idiot because they've lost an argument, or whatever they do. Well, what does that actually mean? Well, it means that the thing that they're experiencing, the suffering that they're experiencing in that moment, they want to get rid of it. And the easiest way is to project it onto the person that's given it to them in the first place. But that has the same or wider reaching implications if you think about it a little bit deeper. So they're projecting their pain. Okay, well, that's amusing to say in the show, right? Share your pain. But there's more to it than that. They are actually experiencing cognitive pain. Now, if you bear that in mind, when they're selling you something that they need to be continually resold on, and when it's not enough to just see the brainwashing, the propaganda billboards with globes on and the stuff on the TV, they also need to preach it to make it more believable to themselves. Now, I said this in a comment, this is the only reason this is so fresh to me, in terms of somebody's transition back to ball. It's one of the people I was subscribed to that's claiming to move back to the ball, a bit like Ranty's recently done. And he's describing all the people that have welcomed him back to the globe. And my comment was to say, you haven't been welcomed back to the globe. You've been welcomed into the anti-flat earth cult. You can never go back to the globe. You know, the things that we say here, you might choose to stick your head in the sand and pretend that you haven't heard them. Sometimes show them openly, but then never address them. But those things aren't ignored by our opponents. They're not verbalised back at us or conceded, but they're also still very much prevalent. That is why they need to resell their wares over and over and over again. Now, they can't sit around selling them to themselves, so they try and sell them to us. And in so doing, it's us that's not convinced. It's us that doesn't believe, not themselves. That make sense?
Yes, I've even realized some of the people that quote-unquote gone back to the globe, the arguments they have now is ignoring what has been debunked of the globe for something like the moon proves the globe kind of rubbish. And then you can see the cognitive pain they have when they're trying to explain it. But I don't know, it just doesn't make sense.
Flatsoid, you're right. That's the other thing I said too. I said before any of that, I said, first of all, you have no more radius. It's gone. Everything you're talking about needs a radius, and we have a photo and a video. It's called the Black Swan, and it pretty much annihilates everything that you're telling these people in chat right now or on Discord, wherever we're on. gem pandas. He said, no, it's not been debunked. So where do you go with that?
You say next.
But you're spot on, Neil. They need a radius, and they stick their head. That's a specific example of them burying their heads in the sand. You know, we say it daily, yet they're all shocked and shaken when we say, you realise you haven't got an R value. Well, that's very unreasonable. What, to point out the debunking of something that you've never ever addressed? And when you have addressed it, you've actually buried your model further with refraction based on R. Yeah, you've never addressed it. It's been 18 months, 2 years, whatever it's been. And you've still not addressed it. Still the same exact problem it always ever was, which is to say the annihilation of your globe belief. It's basis of that would be Earth radius that you haven't got anymore. So, you know, those people have stuck their head in the sand. It's still the case. That's, again, we've said it all along. That's why they don't come here. They prefer to forget. They prefer to not address it and continue asserting that when we assume a radius, blah, 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 blah. And they want to carry on with that.
And hide by saying it's a cesspool over here, or because the way you treat people, Nathan. Well, how about we get some old videos out or some old recordings out of how we were treated like 4 years ago?
Because it's simply not the case. So a few commenters happened to leave some rather positive comments for a change, in defence of me for a change, which was really nice for a change. And they were saying things like, actually, I've watched a few of these shows, and typically Nathan will let the opponent make his point in full, and he'll even shut down his own panel if they try and interrupt the person making their full point. Then it gets into it, and if there's rumpusing, in quotes, then that'll get shut down, as it should be. So in other words, the people who can recognise or just watch go, no, that's not the case. But people see and read what they want to see and read, don't they? We found that out over this weekend, yeah? You say yes, someone might hear that as no.
Well, I did email Pat. We'll see if he's actually going to respond to me, if he's such a so-called professional communicator, nah, we'll see.
Yeah, the guy's a dick. As soon as he publishes a load of private emails that he's still in communication with the guest he's approached and wants to call himself professional, yeah, have at it. If you want to email and hassle him, feel free.
But not
Yeah, and
just
he's
that.
got his broadcasting trophies that he presents. Who cares?
With 26 views. With 26 views on a video.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, Pat, you might want to let the YouTube algorithm know about your awards, because they don't seem to give a shit.
But I mean, even though your first email towards him with your concerns about cats, I mean, I have exactly the same issue. He just doesn't accept when he's wrong. How is it going to help to debate someone that is not going to concede to anything? So you just want a new opponent that's actually going to be honest. That's as simple as that. Instead, he couldn't accept it because he is a Cats & Co fan, as he's been showing. If he wasn't, as he said, in this for how long, then how can he name all the people on the anti-flat Earth side so easily and happy with a cheer on his face, selling them as heroes? And he's saying he's not biased. Really fishy.
Well, he's admitted to being biased. A few people don't realise when somebody actually admits to their bias, that then later disclosing that they're not biased doesn't work anymore.
Hello, guys.
Hey, Owen.
How was your weekend?
My weekend was fine. How was your weekend?
Tense.
Tense?
I got a strike. Did you not know?
Yeah. No,
How long are you banned for, Owen?
For a week. So I'm live streaming now my early bird show on D Live. I don't know if anybody knew that. I've tried to spread it around. Some like ballers have already found me, right? So I already got a visit from P Mars and Dawn Threader. So yeah, it'll work out just fine for now, even with only 5 to 10 viewers. That's just fine. But yeah, the early bird show is still going, but it is going to be on D Live this week until the next weekend, and then I'll try to switch back to YouTube.
Do you have to get on bended knee and offer a sacrifice to the YouTube gods?
That's fine. They can present themselves, and I'll sacrifice them. I have no problem with that.
You have a small goat handy.
No, them.
Oh, them. You'll sacrifice them. Oh, no. Probably best not to threaten to sacrifice YouTube employees just to get your live streaming privileges back.
So, I thought you said gods.
Yeah, the
I mean,
YouTube gods.
If they insist on a sacrifice, I'd be happy to sacrifice them.
The YouTube gods, meaning the gods of YouTube.
Being purposely vague. That's what it means.
Okie dokie. Well, I'm sorry to hear it. Obviously, that's a bit of a bummer. But I'm sure you'll be back up and running next week. All being well.
Barely without reason, too. Like, they didn't even get specific. Like, they mentioned a generalized reason why, supposedly medical related, but I didn't even talk about that at all. So it was really bizarre. I think it was probably due to the thumbnail that was kind of like triggering in a medical fashion, but I didn't talk about it. So it was apparently just a visual. They didn't allow me to correct anything. They just took it away. That's it. They don't seem to want to communicate.
So we better not do anything medical here then.
We don't anyway.
Right. Well, I talk about it regularly in my own way, right? I just try to not be too upfront, too standard narrated. Not gonna buy into standard political narratives, right? That really gets you strikes, and that wouldn't surprise me. But I try to work my way around it. But apparently in this case, they still just insisted. So yeah, if you want to get banned on YouTube, just take a syringe as your thumbnail and you will get banned.
Just know the terms of service. Just read them when they send you updates, which they do. Just read them.
It's undoable. I try to avoid the subjects, right? But I still like to apply art. So if something is going to be on everybody's mind, I'd like to use that, right? To tantalize the imagination. And that's what I did in this case too. In this case, I associated the idea of a vax and global vax bullshit. Like, I don't even really want to talk about it, but there was this amazing image where they literally put a ball Earth in there, and that just like, wow, that is metaphorically uncanny. And that's really the reason why I wanted to use it, right? Not because, ooh, I want to talk about the subject again. No, it just like, wow, there's a globe in there. That's fascinating. Right? Art.
Yeah, it was a good thumbnail. I actually went on your show and put in your chat, good thumbnail.
Right. Well, a little too good, apparently.
Don't know if that's the reason. You think you didn't mention anything, but if you can't
they
go
didn't
back...
say.
Exactly, so you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. But don't do it again.
Yeah, that's just great. Yeah, I won't do it again. If I could please know what it was.
Yeah, I just said.
You know?
I just told you. Read the terms of service. Then you'll know what you can and can't do.
Yeah, but if I follow that, then I can literally do nothing.
It's not true. Have I got shut down?
Not.
Do I get copyright strikes? Do I get community guideline strikes? No, no, and no. The only thing I ever get is occasionally someone will play a bit of music that's covered or something like that, and then I'll have to go in and either trim it out so that I can get monetization on the video. That's the worst thing that happens to me.
Right, but you do kind of actively avoid subjects, right? And you can do that because you have a narrow subject themed show. So that works, right?
Well,
I
also,
interact with chat.
Also, out of
People are
respect to
going
you
to ask me
guys,
questions.
well, it also takes my panel. My panel could easily shut down the show if they were disrespectful or wanted to or insisted on talking about something that I kept on telling them not to. but you guys are respectful and don't. If I say please can we not talk about this, doesn't necessarily mean it's because it's the rules. It might just be overtly racist and not humorous, or I don't know, whatever.
Right, but it still works because it's a good show. There is standard subjects, and there's always something to do, right?
Yeah, like now I say the word berate instead of the other word that I used to use because I didn't realize it.
What, chastise?
Yeah, the other word to berate that starts with an A and ends with an E, with a U in the middle, and a B as the second letter.
What?
I don't know.
Abused. I used to say abuse, remember?
Oh.
You all yelled at me.
Right, well,
Abuse.
that was a contextual thing, though.
Well, if you're continually being berated, that could be classed as abuse.
I guess so. Verbally, right? Verbal abuse is, they say, just as bad as physical, right? I don't know
Right.
how.
Are you going to join the Flat Earth Debate Union or something? What's all this about?
There's a union.
No, there's not a union, Owen. I'm just asking Neil what his concerns are. I'll be your union rep, Neil. You can speak to me. Nobody's listening.
Oh, well.
I think we have to renegotiate our contract, Nathan.
Your contract is you don't have to be here if you don't want to.
Yeah, we're gonna have to renegotiate that. Just kidding.
Contract. Chocolate saying should be docked in pay. He's been late. I mean, let's go here.
Speaking of contract, when am I getting my pay, Nathan?
This
I mean,
is
come
Dave.
on, it's been 3 years now.
Never going to hear
Speak to
it.
the
Not my
boss.
issue. Dave Weiss. Go to Dave Weiss.
What?
Go to Dearth. Not my issue. Not my problem.
You mean about chocolate saying?
That's only my problem when he's here.
Dave Weiss is the boss. Come on, you don't know this by now? Hey, you know, Nathan, what's funny is somebody will listen to this and they'll really run with it.
Run with what?
You see, it's scripted. Here they are talking about how Dave Weiss is the boss. DITRH writes everything for them and they're just puppets.
Yeah, but so's
He
so's
wishes.
Dearth. You know, Dearth is still beholden to Megatron. Never
So-
going to change.
Sorry, but what's this word that he wrote in paragraph C on page 172?
Not my concern. Take it up with legal.
You mean execute order 66?
Anyway.
Yeah, that was last weekend.
That gag's come to a nice conclusion easily. DITRH isn't the boss of anybody. Well, he might be the boss of somebody. I'm sure he has got people that are under him. But he's not the boss of me. He's not the boss of Chocolate. He's not the boss of anybody here. He's a good friend. He's actually a very generous friend as well. He gives me money occasionally if I do things that please him. That's not how it should sound. As in, if I debate somebody that he's particularly keen to see annihilated, he has in the past said, I'll give you a super chat if you can get that person on. And he has. So, you know, Dave's also supportative, if that's the right word. Supportative. No, he's a good guy.
He is. He's the one that originally rolled me into doing my own YouTube channel.
Always got some very good advice, even if you don't necessarily ask for it.
Don't we all?
He's got a good way of getting you to do things that are beneficial to yourself. And I don't know how he does it, but he can do it in a way that makes it seem like he's asking you to do something. So you kind of almost like, getting me to do things. But seems reasonable, fine. So then you do it. And then after the fact, he points out that that's going to be of benefit to you somehow. I'll give you an example. So he's talking about making shorter videos. You should be making shorter videos, Nathan. Okay, right, fine. So I start making short videos, and it's like, you should really get them compiled into a playlist, Nathan. Right, yeah. Because, of course, there's extra hours in the day to do this. But, yeah, I'll get it together. So I've put that on my website, on the Sun and Moon app. It's there, short. What's it called? I called it the Dearth List. It was named the Dearth List in the end. But I specifically, that is now a list that gets publicised by Dearth to people that wouldn't see me if it wasn't for that being done. Now, he didn't necessarily tell me that he was going to do that while he was suggesting I do these things. Eventually he did, obviously. But, you know, that's just the kind of guy he is. In other words, if at any point you go, no, he'll go, okay, and he'll just walk away. And you're not going to lose any feelings over it. But he knows deep down that if you'd have just done what he asked, it would have benefited you. I'm not saying he's doing that intentionally. I'm just saying that's the way I kind of perceive it after the fact. And you think, smart man, right? It's only your own fault. If you don't want to help yourself, tough luck.
Yeah. Yeah, he did. Yeah, before you said it, he was the one that originally kind of pushed me like, yeah, just do it. Just get on there, keep talking. It might not make any sense at first. Just go. And eventually you'll get the hang of it. And yeah, it'll get interesting and it'll be worth it.
The question is, would I have stumbled across your show if I did not hear David Weiss talking about it?
Well, probably not.
It's possible, because I do listen to Eddie Bravo.
Yeah, there's a mild chance, but what I'm saying is it's as a direct consequence, as of about 2018 or wherever the legislation was introduced, and we just stopped appearing in the search lists. Well, from then on in, from that day to this, in fact, as soon as I found out, I added, please share the show. You know, up until then, I thought it was a bit tacky to ask people and encourage them to share. When it's like, if you produce good material and a few people watch it and they stick around, it'll go up in the algorithm and you'll be seen. So you don't necessarily have to encourage them. Now, it's all you hear me doing. And since that day, seeing me in the chat monitoring my own live stream chats, just so I can say, has anybody actually shared this? Because if they haven't, well, then there's no audience. It is just that simple. That said, a few people have sent me examples recently of how it would appear, at least at surface level, like I don't know about anybody else, I'm getting a bit more promotion than I had been. So I'm very grateful for that.
I am. I definitely am. I mean, the other day, my What is Coriolis video was 7 on the list. Then straight after that, after putting that on, it went somehow away on other people's lists. So it just went down the list all of a sudden, but it was 7th, at least for a day.
Exactly, and people have posted me emails and sent me Skype messages and various other screenshots of things where they've said, look, did you know you were getting this? You're actually appearing on my lists now. Here you are. Look, you've been promoted to me. Now, this is people who've subscribed saying, look, I've actually been offered the opportunity to watch your video without having to go and look for it. You're like, wow, you didn't have to click on a link in Skype. No, YouTube actually offered up your video to me. I'm like, wow, I feel privileged.
Yeah, for me too. Like, usually when new people get in my chat, I ask them, like, how did you find it? And most of the time it's through Flat Earth Debates, right? Or sometimes some other platform. But sometimes somebody, it's very rare, they actually say, yeah, it was actually in the recommendations for some reason. And to me, that's like, oh my God, we just won the lottery. YouTube actually like forwarded it to a random out there. Like, wow. That's much more rare now. Good remember 2015 where the YouTube recommendation was just filled up and you could actually browse the recommendations to find new Flat Earther channels? Those were
I just beheaded a centipede. If you never did that, you gotta try it. All his legs just started twitching.
Dude.
Oh, and I'm on the floor working, so like a lot of times I'd be scraping the floor because I gotta get it ready for a floor, and the centipede comes flying out of nowhere. So I just took my taping spat and I beheaded him.
Why?
Because he was in my freaking way, and I like being God.
Okay, that's repulsive.
No, like Flat Earthers Centipedes are not like dogs and cats. They're not in a protected group.
Bugs, listen to, hold on, listen, Owen, in Genesis, if you read, insects came after the rebellion. After they rebelled against God's word, then insects came. Or if they were here, they became a bothersome. Because he said, by the sweat of their brow shall you till the field. Then he had to deal with insects and all of that. I suppose before that, they probably never even went near us. Now it's like they got a target on you.
Right.
They're there to annoy you.
So did, when you put that plank up, did you get covered by thousands and thousands of insects? Because then I'd get it, right? Yeah, that's a plague. If it's just one creature trying to escape, why the hell would you kill it? It's still life.
You do know insects are still quite valuable for the environment, Neil.
Exactly.
I'm not going to wipe out the whole centipede colony or whatever they're called. This one was in my way. You ever get bit by a centipede? Yeah.
Okie dokie.
Are you scared of it?
Freaking right I am. Get bit by that, I've had to work for a while. Crosses my path, he gets killed. He gets whacked.
Okay.
Hey, Neil, just do it, Bob. Just do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Get to the chopper.
Just do it for Johnny, man.
Hold on.
Just do it for Johnny.
Right.
Just get to the chopper.
Get to the chopper.
You done?
I think Neil worked the bugs out of the floor.
Hey, 10th, by the way.
Good morning.
10th, how's it? I say it's been a long time since I've been on the show. It feels good.
Are you got a day off of work?
Yeah, it's a public holiday.
What's all the noise in the background then? Is that your PC?
Sorry, I'm making stew.
Alrighty then.
I don't hear anything from Discord. Anybody in there?
Good morning.
Hey, Ryan.
Hello.
Hey, good morning, all.
Hey, George.
Morning.
Hey, Steve. Steve was actually chatting with us before.
That was Eric.
Was that Eric? My bad.
No problem. You're forgiven.
It's an outrage. I'd speak to the union. Got a new member. Kieran Tibbetts. Welcome to Penguin. Thank you for joining.
I really like to see the growth of Neil on the channel now that he's talking about centripetal force.
Centipedal. That's terrible.
That leg has many. That argument has many legs.
Indeed.
Speaking of centrifugal force, you might want to stay tuned to my video tonight. Quite interesting.
Save it for the live show and tell us after the housekeeping questions. Plug it. Try not to interrupt him when he plugs it.
Awesome, thanks.
What time is it now? It's obviously coming up. It's coming up for 2 p.m. UK time. If you can mention the UK and US times, you'll get even more people to actually come. Figure them out quickly.
Are you... I think you're an hour before me, so it'll be 8 p.m. UK.
Is it only? You say we're before you, so you're 3 p.m. now, right?
No, I'm an hour before you. So by me, it's 9 p.m. there at that time, and by you, it'll be 8 p.m. there.
So you're 1 p.m. now, nearly.
No, 3 p.m. now.
And yeah,
Aren't we an hour before you? Aren't we an hour before you? So by me, it would be 9 p.m. when the movie comes out, the video. By you, it would be 8 p.m. when it comes out.
Right, but that means it's 3 p.m. for you now, right?
Correct, yeah, 1 minute away.
Yeah, I thought that was the first thing I said.
Maybe I misunderstood.
But it's the same as Dutch time then. That's how
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Are you going to tie your centripetal force to the wormhole?
It's got lots of momentum.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Now, we are joined by somebody incredibly irritating who has constantly tried to join during my intro, distracting me completely, which is Elijah. So we're joined by Eli, 10th Man, Arwin, Neil, Eli, Flatzoid, I don't think I missed anybody, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. Thank you for repeatedly trying to join, Eli, during my introduction. Really appreciated that.
Hello, guys.
My bad. Hello.
Good afternoon.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, George. Good morning, everybody else. I'll hustle a few people off mute in Discord if there are anybody, because we're going to go straight to housekeeping. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Not yet.
9. You will never get that.
Racist. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon formerly known as Earth curve?
Would that need physicality?
Say it again.
So would that need physicality?
That would mean physicality, that's correct, Flatzoid.
Then why are they streaming around refraction and optical illusion then?
They being anti-flat earthers that rebel against our argument that refutes the idea that they have a physical geometric sphere edge for a horizon. Well, they're offering up rhetoric that doesn't sit in line with the claim that we've got a physical sphere edge for a horizon. They would be anti-flat earthers, Flatzoid.
Then a definite no.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
How do you manipulate a conceptual thought experiment?
Hold on, you've got a lot of words in there. Which gravity are you referring to?
Well, the latest one, even though it keeps changing. But yeah, we'll take Einsteinian. A pseudo
Einstein for
force,
3.
it's not really a force.
How do you manipulate things in pseudo force space? You don't. Next question. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Not yet.
Will we ever get one?
We'll keep asking. Feel free to join in, those of you in Discord. Don't be shy. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
It's over there, apparently.
How do you know my distance is the same as your distance, Owen?
It's 3 Arwinian units.
You're going to need R for that. The Arwinian unit is based on the AU, and you know it.
No, you need Arwin for that.
Yeah, you're going to need R. You know Arwinian units are a derivation of AU. There's 3 of them instead of 1 of them, but it's still a derivation, so you're going to need R for that. Any evidence of the R value? That would be Earth radius.
There are be none here, Captain.
Derived, calculated, presupposed.
Oh, so calculation is not measurements?
No.
Then why every time I ask the people for their measurement evidence, they give me calculations?
It's part of the magic trick.
Don Threader was in my chat today at the early bird show on D Live, and he said that yeah, it might be that maybe the horizon is apparent, but I still think that what I see in the distance is still nudging a little. And then when I tried to explain the black swan to him, he just said no, it's still obstruction. So I think that in his mind, it's better to just think that the horizon can move around geometrically than to concede that it's not a sphere.
My memory may be playing tricks on me here, but correct me if I'm wrong. Dawn Treader was one of the brave few to originally, early on after the release of the Black Swan, to come on, and if memory serves me, he was even quick to admit that he didn't understand it and had it explained to him. Am I making that up, or am I giving credit where it's not due?
No, sounds about right. But it's been a long time, and he probably just over time didn't really learn. So he still doesn't get it. Not really.
But what I'm saying is, although it's like it might even be 18 months later, let's pretend it was day one. You know, he actually had the tenacity to come on the show and say, okay, refraction, that's what I've heard is the rebuttal. I mean, I'm scraping my mind. It might be that I've interweaved him with somebody else, but I'm pretty sure it was Dawn. And he came on, he had a reasonable degree of humility, which is probably why it's stuck in my mind.
Yeah, I think you got that right. I do remember him doing that.
Anybody's watching that knows Dawn, if you can just give him a tug and say, Dawn, Nathan says you were actually brave enough to go in and get the lowdown on the Black Swan in the debate. Is that the case? Because I might be wrong. It might be someone else. But if I'm right, I think he had it fully explained, laid out in reasonably calm manner. He came with his rebuttal, so he was at least armed with something. He didn't just come empty-handed and say, tell me about the Black Swan, I don't get it. He didn't do that. He's not that dumb. But by the same token, credit where credit's due, if people come back and I think they will and say, yeah, that was Dawn. You know, he came in, he had it explained to him. Obviously, he didn't have a rebuttal to it, but at least he had it laid out for him in a debate. That's fair play to Dawn, I would say. I've just, as soon as I've said it, I thought I'll go back after the fact, look it out, and he'll have been the most scummy, normal, anti-flat earth behaviour. That's what I'll find in the clip if I've trimmed it out. You know, just kidding myself. Rose-tinted glasses. Yeah, he was probably really nice about it. Probably
at
not.
First. Now, that's his tactic. He's nice at first. But even during my live show, he was in chat. I had to ban him eventually because he got really on my nerves. He said that, you know, the Black Swan argument, I get it. He would actually say it like this. Yeah, I get it. But it's because I don't trust the one that's telling me this, and therefore I'm going to ignore it. Right? Then I spent like 15 minutes trying to explain to him that, like, sound logic has nothing to do with people's trustworthiness or intention or any action one might conclude to take out of that. It's just data. It's just logic. It works. Has no relation to anything. And he just wouldn't see it. He just said, no, it's because you're a flat earther telling me this.
No, I get that.
So,
No. No. Thank you, Dawn. You're going to get props twice in a row. This is never going to happen again. Right? He has basically told you the full motivation of what I have labelled anti-flat earth. He has just literally laid it out for you. It's not that I don't get the logic or that I don't want to look at the logic. The information source is a flat earther. Therefore, instinctually, I am going to reject this information and find an overcome to how it has been put to me by that individual. That's how we end up with, well, Earth doesn't rotate underneath, stupid flat earther. Like, hello? Your globe claims it does, but because, like Dawn, I don't trust the source, you're a flat earther, therefore you must be wrong. It doesn't matter what you're citing. Second law of thermodynamics, made it up. Fallacy of begging the question, come from a flat earther, made it up. And that's how they end up looking as stupid as they do. That's why they end up on the numpty dipshit clips on Quantum Erasers channel. Because they end up bracing against us, and in so doing, thinking they're smart, they don't see the bigger picture that they're debunking their own globe rhetoric. Physical geometric horizon, Earth turn, it doesn't matter what they're decrying to get around how we've debunked it, as long as they're attacking us.
Yep.
Yeah, I think
It's
that's
also very tragic, though, because, like, he's basically laying out exactly how he is keeping himself ignorant and will, as a consequence, not be able to move on intellectually. And it's kind of painful, you know, to see
Also,
that.
that's his standards, right? I mean, aside from the fact that it summarises the anti-flat earth position quite beautifully, that's him being brutally honest, right? He's saying, I'm wired to trust, and I don't trust you. So therefore, I don't have to take anything you say as read, logical or otherwise. I trust X, and X has served me well. So I'm going to stick with X instead of you. That's what he's saying. Now, I know people who are wired that way. Plenty of people that are wired that way. The fact that Dawn is so beautifully honest about it makes it useful for me to say no. What he's done is he's been really honest with you. He's told you how it is. Now, obviously, you don't like that. You want him to use logic. Fair enough. I would want the same. Doesn't mean that that isn't how he's wired, and he's told you so. He's been honest with you. But it beautifully summarises the position people find themselves in when they get suddenly forced a red pill they didn't want to swallow. It's like, you've still swallowed it. It's not like these people, while they tell themselves they haven't heard our arguments, we discussed this in the pre-show, often they will highlight our arguments in the first part of their videos and then immediately ignore them, moving on, because they can just say, I have addressed it, I put it at the beginning of my video. No, you put the objection at the beginning of your video, you never actually addressed it. It's the same with all of the housekeeping questions. For the most part, people have got their head in the sand. We saw it when we first started telling them, why aren't we getting answers? Well, because they can't answer them. It's the end of their globe faith. So what do? They sit in silence. Moreover, stick their fingers in their ears and go, la 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 la, I'm not listening. I value, la 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 la.
Well, it's not even that. It's they literally show you we are ignoring this. They're just signaling this is what we ignore, right?
Yeah.
Almost with pride. So
Exactly.
yeah, we addressed that at the beginning of the video. Oh, you mean you displayed how you are going to intentionally, actively ignore this? you mean.
Precisely. And then when it gets brought up immediately, they're all shocked and shaken. Yeah, what about that R value? Whoa, what do you mean, what about the R value? We've been talking about it for the better part of a year and a half or more. We ask for it daily. What do you mean you want R? That seems unreasonable. Not really.
And I
it's the
asked
fundamental.
it on Gem Pandas. Sorry.
Go on, Neil. Go.
Well, you stopped twice, and I got a delay. But anyway, I agree. I asked it on Gem Pandas like 3 times today, and I didn't get an answer for the Black Swan or us debunking Earth radius.
Hey, Bible literalist Paula put a meme for you, Master B, Nathan.
I'll check it out. While I am, any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
I'm sure one of the largest anti-flat earthers also conceded you need a container.
I don't get it.
Conspiracy cats. Without the container, there will be no pressure.
I mean, I don't get the Black Swan, racist swan.
I said one of the biggest anti-flat earthers had to concede this point.
Yeah, I think it was on the conversation you were having with Arvin on, what was his name? The guy who recognized it at first?
Dawn Threader.
Yeah, I think it's a play on that.
Well, I find that thumbnail that Paul has made quite offensive. I'm 16% swan.
That's why the ballers and anti-flat earthers can't take your flap.
Hey, Swan Lives Matter.
You keep feathering up this argument.
Well, they're technically shapists, you know?
I said already in the pre-show, we're not part of the protected groups, just like centipedes. You know? We can bleat and moan about the treatment we receive all we like. We're never going to be LGBTQ. So we're not a protected group. We just have to deal with that. Like gingers. Hi, ginger! Yeah, that's allowed.
What you calling me? What you calling me?
Are you a ginger?
Actually, yeah. Although my
Sorry,
hair's gone very brown
what the
since I've
fuck?
got older.
Somebody kick him out! Why is he even here?
How dare you?
Seriously, security.
Yeah, we're going to have to surgically remove those freckles. I'm sorry.
What freckles?
If you're a ginger and a girl, it's okay. Let's get it correct.
I went out with a ginger girl for about a year, and I didn't know she was ginger. I'm colourblind. So it took one of my mates to then say, "Why a ginger?" And I was like, "Who? What are you talking about?" She's like, "She's ginger." I was like, "No, she's not. She's blonde." "No, she's not, mate. She's ginger." I was like, "Is she?" "Yeah, she is." I immediately dumped her.
Well, the mother of my first 2 daughters, when she was she was ginger, she's American Irish, but when she was in the hospital with I think it was premature. She went into contractions too early.
Are you on the phone to
She
the
was in the
hospital or something, Neil? What's going on?
Yes, so listen to what happens. I'm going to get to a point here really quick because I almost strangled this Dr. Simonson. He comes in, he's looking at my wife, and then he checks her. He looks up from where he is looking, where the baby comes from, then looks up at her head, and he had the nerve to say, "Oh, are you a redhead?" I was like, "Are you out of your freaking mind?"
Well, he was just saying.
That is a bit weird.
Yes, that's not correct. You can't do that. You can't look at my wife when my child is going to be coming out soon, recognize the color of a bush by looking at her head and asking her that question. I almost strangled the freaking guy.
What are you talking about? How can you not ask that question? I mean, I'm not being rude, but if I was staring at your wife's vagina and I noticed that the cuffs didn't match the collar, I would have to say something. And I think he felt the same.
With me in the room? I mean, come on, use your brain. Are you a redhead?
Did we cover all of housekeeping questions as we can move away from non-protected groups? Ginger people being the example for humorous effect.
May this ginger person do a shameless plug now.
Sorry, has somebody not got rid of you already?
Yeah, we got to be careful. One day they'll take over the world.
Like Cartman.
Well,
No, South Park. There's an episode. Remember?
Yeah, Cartman dyes his hair ginger and then takes over the world
it's
and
not.
Yeah.
recruits all the gingers. Daywalkers.
That was great.
Anyway, I would really appreciate it if someone would show up tonight on my live premiere, 8 p.m. UK time, 9 p.m. Central African time. It's all got to do with momentum and centrifugal forces. Something you do not want to miss. All on the Flat Soy channel.
Good plug. Be here or be sphere. That's Flatzoid. I take it we went through all the housekeeping questions then, because normally I say, have we done them all? But you are obviously keeping track so you can get your plug in as soon as possible for a live audience. Don't blame you. Did we cover everything?
Can I do a micro plug for myself just to remind everybody that I am now live streaming on DLive, not YouTube, for the next week. So I'm still doing the early bird show. I'm just doing it on DLive because I am temporarily disabled from live streaming. I'll put the link out to my channel in the chat. Please come and visit. I still interact with my chat, so thank you.
That was more.
You know, I remember Nathan having this conversation with Sleeping Warrior. Why can't you guys just follow the rules?
Which rules?
YouTube rules.
Oh, the terms of service. Yeah, I don't know. It's a challenge for some people to read the terms of service for the service that they're utilising. Fair enough, I suppose. Yeah, respect their rules. That's their platform, right? YouTube own this platform. It's not about free speech. In case anybody gives me that kind of crap in the comments, they've got terms of service. You have to abide by them. If you don't, you get in trouble.
Yeah, just like me. I've started having a no tolerance for trolling on my channel. And since I've started banning the stupid trolls, my views and subscribers have gone up tremendously.
Nice.
I could say the same for me. People started asking me why they've been banned. I'm like, I haven't banned you, but I have instructed several moderators. I've probably got half a dozen moderators on each channel. So Neil is one of them on the second channel. Arwen is one of the main channel, I think. And so on and so forth. Mostly panel members for obvious reasons. People I trust, basically. But I would assume that at some point they have banned people. And they have my full blessing. That's why they've been given a wrench. People give out wrenches very willy-nilly. They'll just give them to anybody, and it's like, I don't know, I want to trust the people I've given a wrench, that they're going to ban only people that require banning. Not ban people because you've lost an argument or whatever, I don't know, some silly reason. But, you know, that's what I leave up to the moderators, and they have certainly banned people because people have moaned. Now, I'm not going to say it's directly a cause and effect relationship when I say, well, a correlation with that is my subscriber count going up. But it certainly hasn't had a negative effect, let's put it that way.
I used a wrench one time, and it happened to be when you were in a heated debate with somebody. I didn't know, I just came in.
And did what?
Time the guy out. That's the only time I've ever did it in my life.
Oh, that drives me
nuts. It just
nuts.
happened to be.
Yeah, you've got a proper earful for that. So if you time somebody out, all of their
did.
messages disappear. So I don't need to lecture my own mods. I'm just saying this for anybody else's benefit. So if you're watching somebody, Arwen did it. That's much better. Let's push this on to Arwen. So Arwen told me off because I think I timed somebody out in his chat for something that they said. No, I think it was actually somebody else. It wasn't me, but I won't name and shame. But we'll say it's me for the sake of this example. And Arwen's like, why did you time them out? I was in the middle of discussing something with them, and now all their messages have been removed. So obviously, contextually, you can only see the replies or hear me talking to an empty message. So don't ban them. If they say something that's out of order, just remove the message they've said. Obviously, if they keep doing it, then you've got no choice. But you don't want, I don't know, in my chats, there's sometimes 10 minutes straight of me going back and forth with some fundy. And to me, that is definitely not cause for the timeout button. That's cause to say, great, that's actually developed a discussion. Little does the person who's arguing with me or whoever know that everyone in the chat is paying attention to how the discussion's going, and it's educating them. It's useful. They think, oh, well, I'm winning here because I'm chanting and calling him an idiot. No. It's giving whoever's your opponent the opportunity to completely annihilate you over and over again by repeating the thing you can't overcome and have it documented until someone times them out. And then it all gets removed. Like, contextually, all my work, those typings that I want left next to the show, have gone. Hey,
And I've never done it again since.
Well, it's like you've just got inspired. You're writing some pages in a book, and then somebody just gets in there, reads it, and like, whoa, this is ugly, man, and just starts to erase it, like in the middle of your work. Like, hey, I was busy with that. It's a study case.
Or if you're writing a novel and it's got a bad character that's an evil character, and someone comes along, reads the book and goes, this character's really nasty, and scrubs out every line from them. You're like, what the hell are you doing? It's part of the context.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've seen Paul Connell's a member, and he's saying, give me a wrench. I've seen people who do that. You become a member and you instantaneously get a wrench as well. It's like, really? What happens if somebody that doesn't like you comes along, pays a few quid to become a member, you wrench them, and then you ban everybody? Just ban them all from your chat when you're not looking. You've then got to go in and sort that out. I'm not suggesting for 1 second you'd do that, by the way.
Sorry.
I was just saying to the person in chat that I wasn't suggesting they'd do that to Paul.
Right, but yeah, some trolls have a lot of time and money on their hands. They will go as far to actually pay to troll, right? And I've seen it out there before. It's like, even if you have to become a member of a platform in order to be able to speak up in chat, people would, in a row, make several accounts, actually pay for them in order to become a member and chat, just to troll with those accounts, right? Pay to troll, it's a thing.
Yeah, spam. Spam will get you hidden, not spam, but sort of repeating a claim that's been refuted. That'll get you a timeout from me. But yeah, that's about it. There's very little that'll get you a timeout or banned. I think the same is true for you, Arwen, generally speaking. You don't tend to ban people that you're not heavy-handed. And from what I can see from my moderators, apart from Neil. Bloody Neil. Oh, he's here. I'm joking, by the way, Neil. You can do what you like. You've got that wrench, and while I might have given you an earful in the moment, I wouldn't have gone back and changed anything. That's your call at the end of the day. That's why you've got a wrench.
You don't hear me begging for a wrench on your other channel? Every time I come in the chat, I'm like, where's my wrench?
You've already got one on the second channel, though, haven't you?
Yes, but I want it for the other one, too.
All right. I just have a certain number, and I don't care who is doing what and whether or not you've got a wrench on each. This is boring. It's very fun, these
It's a running joke. It's a running joke with a few people in the chat. I just come on and say, where's my wrench?
So in my show, that'll get you banned. It's specifically in detail written down in the rules.
I was going to say, it happens a lot. It happens a lot. People coming, I get a wrench. Why? So I can feel superior to everyone else here.
Well, we already know what Neil could do with a flat tool. God help those when he uses the wrench.
You don't go around attacking small insects with it.
Anyway, evidence of sphere Earth?
We did
It's
the
awfully
housekeeping.
quiet on this. It's awfully quiet this Monday.
We did the housekeeping already, and everyone was off mute.
Monday, la la.
Yeah, you'd have to fill the silence with song, I promise. So no fundy exchanges that have been exciting over the weekend, as we now know what day it is when this goes out on a re-up, and it makes no sense. Thanks for that.
Nothing out of the ordinary happened except for, me suddenly getting that strike. That's pretty much it.
We covered
Pretty
that.
nerve-wracking, by the way.
It's always 10th man that brings up the days.
It's my weakness.
Boom, boom.
Good one. Even though the other day I brought up the date.
Well, I mean, the only thing notable over the weekend is, well, you know how you said, well, the text chat is useful for people paying attention because they can see you raise, you know, some objection, and then they can see them not answer it like about 50 times or more if you're doing it for hours. If you know how to stay on point, then they'll literally try to, they'll spend 5 hours not answering your one direct question. And so I did message you about it. I ended up getting to speak to 10th about it, and it was a good conversation. The dude snatched his own wig off when he said, I don't understand your objection with a hypothesis for astrophysics. And basically, because it started because I said, well, there is no valid hypothesis, no testable hypothesis. And then he said, well, cosmic microwave radiation background. Basically, he was saying, we're not concerned with the cause. And I'm like, well, sir, that's the whole point. The hypothesis is a prediction of how the independent variable affects the dependent variable. So that's pretty much the only reason that you have a hypothesis, is because you're basically you have a supposition into what the cause can be for phenomena.
Right.
And he says, we're not worried about the cause. I was like, yo, you're done.
So here's the statement. The scientific method is exclusively interested in the elucidation of the cause of a naturally occurring phenomena. Or to put it more succinctly, science deals with cause and effect. We're not interested in the cause. We're much more interested in looking at it through the telescope and then making up a little story. Yes, we know. Yes, that's what we challenge daily. Unfortunately, your story's based on R now, isn't it? And we've debunked R.
That's why when I was on Jim's yesterday, or the day, it was the day yesterday, I think, where they were talking about Anthony's hypothesis with the egg, with density, change the density, and the egg would move. Their argument was, how do you know adding salt into water changes the density? That was the level of argument from these guys.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And this comes from Professor Bell, saying he has been a chemist for how many years now?
Yeah, he was on the panel of people that were saying water vapor isn't vapor, from memory. So
Now, water vapor isn't gas.
that's the one.
It's micro droplets, according to him.
Whatever.
They're so
Numpties.
small.
Well, he also says a ppm meter doesn't measure.
You know how I would answer that question, or if he says, well, how do you know it's more dense, the water is more dense? I was like, well, is salt more dense than water? And he goes, yes. Well, if you add the water, salt to the water, then it makes it more dense because you're adding more dense substance to the water.
You don't know that.
I don't know. What? Can't know that? Why can't you know that?
I'm just saying their nonsense to you to see how you react to it, Paul. You can't know that.
Can't know that.
Yeah.
Isn't there a necessary antecedent? So if you got one dense substance and you add it to another substance, I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. It's just stupid to even ask that question. We know salt is more dense than water. It settles at the bottom of the water when you pour it in initially, and then you stir it in, and obviously it's going to make this water more dense. I don't know.
Right. If I add a dense substance to water, it will become more dense. I added a dense substance to water, and it became more dense. It's modus ponens, isn't it? If A then B, A therefore B.
Yeah, well,
Right.
he
That's what
doesn't
I was thinking.
understand.
Hold on 1 second, Flatsoid.
Yeah, well,
Say again. Just 1 second, Flatsoid. Go ahead, Paul.
No, you're right. I mean, yeah, it's modus ponens. Exactly. I guess that's what I was trying to say.
Go ahead, Flatsoid. Sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I'm just saying because when you add salt and solute into the water, it actually heats up, so it changes the temperature. And when you ask him, okay, what happens what's the difference between, does the density change if you heat the water or not? I mean, that's also quite simple. Just because it changes with heat as well, it changes that. And because it has a convection current based on density change, that already debunks the gravity argument as well.
Indeed. Anything else other than Anthony's validated hypothesis?
Well, I mean, yeah, like the description of gas pressure obviously debunks gravity, seeing is that, in their paradigm, the gas particles are also mass. So they would have to say, yeah, they're attracted to each other. That's how that sun is up there. That's how Jupiter's up there. So,
Right.
I mean, the description of the balloon is that the air particles are moving at high speeds and they're filling the containment. So the problem is the description is supposed to be, if we were in this like heliocentric model, reality for real, then the description would be that the air in the balloon is compressing or something. It wouldn't be that it's losing the air inside it.
I don't know about offering up an alternative that should occur in a heliocentric model we don't exist in, but fair play to you. Your bottom line point was correct. Ultimately, if you're going to say you've got Newtonian, actually, Reverend John Michell, CV Boys, Cavendish gravity, then you've got to say mass attracts mass, and gas debunks that.
Exactly.
Well, when people die, the tricksters will use their name and attribute a lot of things to them, and they're not here to tell us otherwise.
I don't think Newton cares. He's dead. Yeah, Newton didn't want a gravitational attraction ascribed to him in any way, shape or form. So, gravitational attraction, as devised by CV Boys, Reverend John Michell and Cavendish, is now called Newtonian gravity, of course.
Can you tell me why he did not ascribe to him?
Well, in his own words.
Ascribe to him?
That's his own words. That's what he actually said in a letter. I can't remember who the letter was addressed to. It's been read out several times here. I don't have a copy of it in case you ask. But those were his own words.
I think it was absurd. Yeah. I think I read that.
Can anybody tell me why he said that, though?
Because it's
I'm
bollocks.
trying to, Neil. Hang on a second.
Just to answer Neil's question. Because it's bollocks, Neil. Because mass doesn't attract mass by some magical force.
Well, I think Newton understood that there has to be some kind of physical interaction between the two objects. Like when I push on an object, my hand's pushing on the other object to cause it to accelerate and cause a force. But when it comes to mass attracting mass or even memory space-time, there's nothing physical causing that. So they have to get around it. So Newton knew to run from that. So you got something that's non-physical trying to interact or cause an attraction.
Right, he said it was stupid without a third party or an agent acting to create the motion. the idea that innate objects just attract one another is stupid. I mean, I'm paraphrasing. He said it far more eloquently than I.
Anybody
Well,
in his
either-
right faculties, he called it an absurdity.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
As I say, far more eloquent than I.
So it might not be that he was running away from it, because that's one of the ways to look at it. Like, you know, the other thing could be that everyone's created this story around him. Like, what if his intention was nothing that they teach you in school? Like, nothing. Like, what if it wasn't like that? What if he was doing his own thing, coming up with his own philosophy, minding his own business, and then someone was like, yeah, gravity, forces, and he's like, huh? You know what I mean?
Well, that's happened before. Tycho Brahe is another example. He's like, well, they'd have to be absolutely enormous. Well, you know, now it's his idea that they'd be absolutely enormous, these lights in the sky. And then you end up with the story about Betelgeuse being absolutely vast by comparison to our, by comparison, tiny sun. And obviously we're just a tiny speck of dust in an insignificant, tiny dot in a massive, ever-expanding vacuum, but we just happen to have gas sticking to us. Lucky old us. In violation of the second law of thermodynamics, gas not expanding into a space it has available to it.
I think they've done the same thing to Eratosthenes. The story doesn't make sense. It doesn't work out how he could go to Alexandria and know exactly what time the sun is over Cyan, and how could he be in Cyan, know exactly when it's over the well, and then at the same time be in Alexandria to take what the shadow is on the pole? And again, there's like three different versions of this I heard. There's probably more. So one version said, well, he did that the first year, and then he went there the second year to Alexandria, and he knew by the first year at this time it was over the well in Cyan. And that's when it's like they have to make up stuff. And then another story was the guy didn't even know the distances between Cyan and Alexandria. He says, yeah, and then he yelled to his friend over there and said, what's the shadow length now? 500 miles away.
You know what's even more absurd than that? I was thinking about it as I was on, you know, with Jazzer on Gems today. And I'm thinking about it, I'm like, it's got to be crazy, because you're living on Earth. You're living on, there's a surface. But you look up and you see the moon and the sun and the other wandering stars. And then all of a sudden, you put yourself like, oh, okay, so I'm on one of these things. It's just so crazy to me to think that because I look up and I see a round sun and a round moon, and I don't know what the planets are. I've never seen them through a telescope. What I see on YouTube videos, they look spherical. So that means I'm on a spherical object going around the sun, orbiting as I'm rotating. That's insanity.
Yeah.
I'm feeling a lot of these people are made up.
Go ahead.
I've like discovered, like, what my theory is that these people are all made up and not real. And also looking into that Cavendish, I don't know who's the quack, if it's the Reverend John Michel or the Cavendish guy, but I was looking into DNA, because DNA was also discovered out of there's a whole department in Cambridge University called Cavendish. And I was looking into DNA to see if I could figure it out. And it also seems like nonsense too. It's just a model based on a picture like that was done with diffraction and X-rays. And they're claiming it's science. It's just a model, and it's coming from Cavendish. So they have I think this whole Cavendish wing of Cambridge University puts out nonsense.
Crazy man stuff.
Well, they punt it as an experiment, which is the main issue. No observed phenomena to observe. Mass attracting mass is the claim phenomena. Mass would be their independent variable. If mass, then mass attracts mass would be their hypothesis. But there is no phenomena to observe in nature where mass attracts mass. And by their own vernacular, you've got mass in the gas, and it's not attracting. So it's a complete nonsense notion. Got a lot of silent people sat on mute in Discord. Say that because we're overburdened, more full than we should be in the live stream chat, but there's no gaps for anybody to join if they did want to discuss something with us while we're having chit chat rather than heavily debated flat earth subjects being tossed over. I suppose Cavendish is kind of a heavily contested globe earth versus flat earth discussion. I.e., you've got to be a globe earther to really believe the rhetoric of mass attracting mass, because you wouldn't understand Einsteinian that it's been superseded if you're just a globe believer. And go on, whoever that is.
My bad. I was just gonna say that they only come in when they think that we've said something wrong, which is sad. It's like, you know, oh, I'm at the fight club. I'm gonna wait for the midget to be challenged, and then I'll go up. You know,
little person. Come on now.
My bad. Like the fact is, like, every day when we're talking about, well, how can you have gas pressure without a container? Where's the scientific evidence for gravity? That any of this stuff, they won't say anything. But if someone slips up about some aspect of the story, then they're here to say, well, you're absolutely wrong about my religion. That's not what it says. Meanwhile, they're not dogmatic about their religion anyway, which is why we call them anti-flat earthers. Because whereas Neil deGrasse Tyson and all these other folks think, well, yeah, we're spinning, and then when you leave the earth, you know, that's the second reference frame. They don't think that. Or the horizon being, you know, the leading edge of a sphere. They don't think that. Whereas people who are, you know, just believing in heliocentrism because it makes them comfortable, they believe that. Because they, you know, whatever.
It's the wider reaching implications that I think a lot of them are scared of. So, if they've been lied to on that scale about the very nature of the existence of the ground beneath their feet, what else would they have been lied to about? You might have to consider those things. Whereas if you just sort of accept that everything around you is true, then everything's around you true. Should we all join hands and sing a little song? Everything is awesome. Don't sing everything.
Well, they don't
awesome.
even.
Go on.
Yeah, I
can't believe that movie is a movie. I'm sorry. Because it's the movie reference. Everything is like, I can't believe that movie is a movie, and then people are just literally acting like that.
Oh, there's so many metaphors in the Lego movie. It's great. Same with Sausage Party.
Are you saying they're linked?
Boom, boom. I recommended it to JLB.
Yeah,
So I don't know if he thought I was joking the first couple of times I went into his comments, and I was like, have you watched Sausage Party? And I think I got a reply like, yeah, whatever. And then I went back, you know, next video, no, seriously, have you watched Sausage Party? It's like, yeah, that looks like a stupid flick. And you're like, yeah, it's got a picture of a hot dog, clearly, subliminally, you know, it's less than subliminal because it's overt, right? What it's supposed to be, I won't detail. Nevertheless, it's like, yeah, but they ram in a load of allegory in there and a load of quite useful lessons. If you've got eyes to see. In other words, most people won't pick up on it. They'll see the story and how it's on a surface level, giving you information about these obviously fake people because they're vegetables that are talking and singing. So that's not you, right? How could that be relatable to you? It's just a funny bit of movie, right? Yeah. Well, no, not necessarily. There's quite a few things in there that they're trying to hint at subtly in terms of the way you're controlled. Now, if you don't pick up on that, that's all the better because it's still a very amusing film. But if you do pick up on it, like some people will, then you'll point it out to others and go, yeah, like most movies that are decent, there's many levels to it if you can look for them. Some subtle, some not so subtle. Shout out to Retro Bill. He says, the $6 million man running 60 miles an hour made me believe by showing him move in slow motion that was perhaps a nod to how they portrayed the Apollo astronauts. Random thought of the day. It's a very interesting point.
I was going to comment on your statement why they deny that they're afraid to find out they live in an illusion, right? Or how did you put it?
I was reading somebody's super chat that came through, so I was only paying half attention. I'll just shout that out so it doesn't distract me even more. So Emma, at another level, says, arguing with globe zealots is pointless. Thank you very much indeed, both Retro Bill and Emma, for the super chats. We call them anti-flat earthers now. I assume by zealot you mean somebody who's relinquished their actual globe rhetoric in favour of anti-flat earth rhetoric. I could be wrong, but thank you for the super chat. Go ahead, 10th.
Yeah, you said something about the reason that you feel they really live in denial is because they realize they don't want to realize it's been an illusion, they've been lied to, and I can't remember exactly the word you used. Can you repeat it?
Well, I was actually kind of going on what Conspiracy Cats told Haunted House. So, in an interview maybe a year or two ago, he explained the wider-reaching implications of if flat Earth was real. That's essentially all I'm paraphrasing, which is to say that you'd have to consider other things that you hold dear and near as being correct and true, and why would they lie, etc., etc. You might have to reconsider those things if the nature of your very ground beneath your feet is proven to be a complete lie.
Right. So when you're talking to people on any subject, and it doesn't have to be the show, topic here, you find that some people can't wait to discuss it with you because they just embrace that subject. Then other subjects people stay away from because they really don't care about it or don't know too much about it. So when we bring up to our family and friends flat Earth, and we start giving the 8 housekeeping questions, these are such pointed questions, logically based questions, that you can see the eyes rolling in the back of their head when you bring it up. And they know they met up with someone who's done a little bit of study on this, not just cursory research. And so either they go forward, as I've noticed, and then they get demolished, or they say, well, listen, you're just one of those conspirators, or they start ad homing. I don't know if I've seen anything in between. They either entertain it for a little while until they can't take it, or if they can't take it, they end up becoming flat earthers, or they just start ad homing you. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I've run this show for several years now. Do you have me on? Yes, of course.
Well, that was basically for the audience to pipe in as well. I know you know that.
My bad.
Anyone in Discord notice that? Anyone in Discord, are you that? Or should I just bring up the obvious? Navigators need an angle measuring instrument. Keyword angle measuring instrument. A sextant comes to mind. It measures the angle of a celestial body above a horizontal line of reference. Thus, no curved line, no curved surface will allow the sextant to be functional. Anyone want to take that on? You know how an angle is being achieved of a celestial body?
This is the year of the sextant. Anyone in Discord? It's being publicised as a flat Earth proof currently. This is the most limited challenge to anything I've ever titled as flat Earth proof so far to date. 10th man.
It seems
Incredible.
to be the most reasonably named, like as far as flat Earth proofs go. because the black swan is just well, for me, it's definitely proof that there is no radius of 3,959 miles of a sphere. Like, that's what it proves definitively for me. But like this thing needing like that baseline, like straight up says, yeah, well, I mean, you got to be living on something level.
Right. For it to work, you've got to be on a level surface. That's how it works. So, yeah, that's where we're at. What's that? It's curved? No, it doesn't work then. It's kind of the end of the argument. It's very short. It seemed complicated at first, 10th Man. I'm glad you took 12 months out of your time to really research this thoroughly to the point where you could put it to us so concisely that we just can sit back and go, yeah, what are we going to say to that? A couple of people have tried. There's been a couple of response videos from very, very, very small YouTubers. And, you know, what have they done other than one confirmed what you said? Well, yeah, they do it on a flat surface. I think they just do it so they can assume Earth is flat. It's like, that's your round out to your response video, that it is done on a flat surface, but you conclude that that's only done so you can assume it's flat, when that's actually how it's being done. Yeah, nice. That was one response. The other was to show triangulation being done on a sphere where it's not triangulating across a level surface. In other words, they're not taking chords to all these areas of equal altitude, and they wouldn't be areas of equal altitude if they were done on a curved surface. Further to that, you wouldn't get the bottom edge of a triangle to be square at 90 degrees. You know, the GP of that star that you're actually measuring. Yeah, triangulation. Hello, there's no response to this 10th. It's an epic flat Earth proof.
Yeah, it's much like the black swan. You need R. Well, what about this? Well, you need R. And with the sextant is you need an angle. Yeah, I know, but you still need an angle. Well, how do you achieve an angle? Well, obviously you can't do it with a curved surface, so it's very similar.
I mean, you can, but you can't do it for the GP of each star from your central position that you're triangulating. So when they do the diagrammatical representation of it being done with curvy level surfaces that don't give you flat bottoms for the triangles, then they assume a zenith position, like when they talk about gravity. So each particular star has got a zenith to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. But then you have a curved bottom to the triangle, unless they draw a chord. And it's like, well, you're not drawing a chord when you draw out a straight line to the horizon and then use it to get a triangle. That's not what's being done. If you did, it would put you in a different geographical location on the surface, which is curving away from the chord you've drawn through the centre of your presupposed spherical Earth, that isn't done when triangulating. It is just that simple. It is not done in the get-around, work-around, anti-flat Earth way that they've presented, and the way they've presented doesn't even work, because it doesn't give them the bottom edge of a triangle flat.
Well, I made a slide, and I said sextant can only work over a flat surface. And then I made another slide that says sextant cannot work on a spherical surface. And I think Bev at Try Thinking would even agree here, and I think he even said it once on the show here. The minute you mention angle, it's over for any curved surface, because it's like you can't say angle and still think curve surface. You can't get an angle.
That is exactly Bev's rhetoric, and more power to him, because he's banging that drum constantly. And I think he's getting frustrated because a couple of times I've heard him, you know, sort of, or have it presented that he's poo-pooing other arguments. It's not. He's just determined. He's got his point in terms of how it would actually work. The geometry is fixed. There's no two ways about it. You've just described it. As soon as you talk about an angle, it's like, yeah, they're never going to achieve that if the ground beneath them's curved. And more power to you, Bev, if you're listening. Good for you, my friend. Keep banging the same drum, because you've got a good drum to bang, and I don't blame you for saying, no, my drum should be loudest. Good for you. Keep banging it.
Yeah, no matter what QE says.
Oh, did QE say he was a scumbag? Actually, take it all back. Bev, get lost. I'm only joking.
They do terrestrial sightings with the sextant when they're near shore, like to a lighthouse, because it's right there, you can see it, and you got a chart, and you could draw a line of position to the chart with an azimuth, and the two lines of positions can cross, and you know where you are. But at sea, how do you do that? You got nothing like a lighthouse just out there, and you don't have a chart. You're like in the middle of the ocean. So this is where the sextant takes the sun in its altitude, and it brings it down to the horizon. And since the almanac says that sun at this moment, because you need time as well as the sighting, is over here, exactly over here. Its zenith position is 2,400 miles away, for example. So you bring the sun down to the horizontal line, and you take your reading and the time. You go to the book and say, the sun is over here at this time, and here's your angle to it. You're 2,400 miles away. That can only happen on a flat surface because you're achieving an angle to what you've just created, a terrestrial position of the sun, spot its zenith over an open ocean or from an open ocean. That can't happen with a curved surface.
With that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you. Smash the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit the PayPal link, and all that good stuff. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Another massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
I'm really happy I didn't go out for groceries just now.
Why?
Because of this.
Oh, because it's pouring with rain. Oh, fair enough.
Like, really, really heavy.
Yeah, it's been one of those sort of shows, eh? Need a bit of small talk to excite the audience for the after show.
Isn't it always raining though? Where you guys live?
In Europe? No. Only 75% of the time.
I really don't see how you. I mean, you know, never mind. I don't know.
Note to self: never put in a merry-go-round with children on it when it's trying to explain momentum. They'll copyright strike you. I mean, endangerment to children strike you.
Don't tell children that they're on a merry-go-round moving 1,000 miles an hour if they live next to the equator. Yeah, that's endangerment.
Yeah, someone striked me. Someone flagged me as endangerment to children.
Are you joking? Or was it a copyright strike for you using that material with the roundabout?
No.
What?
Yeah, it's endangerment to children because I got children on a roundabout without an adult.
Well, fair enough. I didn't know that. Vaguely recall that. Can you not do this yourself? I'm not suggesting you should do this yourself, but you know, the example that was on your video was great. The guy that did it just had 2 cameras and a couple of people on a roundabout, and they threw a ball, and he showed the curved path on the camera that's attached to, you know, one of the positions on the roundabout, and then shows the straight path from the camera above. It was really cool.
Yeah, but this video I'm doing is on momentum and centripetal forces. So I actually needed the people to be flung off of the roundabout to make a point. That's fine. I'll just remove about 4 minutes of the video. That's all.
Okay. Just do it with teddy bears.
Or pink elephants.
mean, maybe this
And the
is something
sad
I
thing
should be
is,
doing.
These are videos that's got. And this is the thing that's got. I mean, you get these things, and these videos have millions of views, and they are still up. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it does. You know what you're promoting. Yeah, it might be something that I do. I go to plenty of parks with my kids, and I don't know, roundabouts, they're not really as big as they were in terms of, you know, all three of the parks that I've got. The only one I can think of has got like a bowl that spins around. That's the closest thing they've got to a roundabout. The other two don't. So roundabouts aren't like they used to be. I remember every kid's playground I ever went on had a roundabout.
I remember, you're right. I haven't seen any of that. There used to be these really, really wide merry-go-rounds. Like really wide, like at least 4 or 5 meters across. I haven't seen those in a long time now.
Yeah, right, exactly. Big, massive concrete things that were really sturdy and massive and would, you know, they're obviously on a really good bearing because they just spin and you got on them. And yeah, like I say, they're not exactly prevalent anymore, but I'm sure I will come across a park that's got a decent sized roundabout in it that I can find the time when there's not a load of kids on it and make a video. It's just one of those things that I'd rather wait a couple of years so I can explain to my eldest daughter precisely what I'm doing and how it works, and, you know, have her understand what Coriolis effect is and have her join in. But at the moment, she's 5, so she's not going to get any of it.
So do we not have anybody in Discord who is an anti-flat earther or a baller who wants to discuss angles?
If there are...
Well, to be fair, you first need them to understand that a triangle cannot be more than 180 degrees.
What I will say is, if you did, I'd move you back. In other words, if there's somebody who says, yeah, I want to thrash this out with 10th Man, I'll move you back into live stream so that you're not getting constant interruption from people in Discord and you and 10th can thrash it out. Whoever you may be, probably nobody. I wouldn't want to face you on this subject, 10th Man, if I'm honest.
Couldn't you get the award-winning man to debate you that made the video mentioning you?
Oh, you're talking about Pat?
Yeah.
That's so last week, Arwin.
I know.
Anyone could have this discussion. It isn't just me. I mean, an angle, all you got to do is look it up and see what an angle is defined as. And you can't all of a sudden say, well, it's not that because I want to force myself to believe I'm on a sphere. And since it doesn't work on a sphere, I'm not going to accept the given definition for an angle. I mean, it dies right there at the definition of angle. We don't even have to go any further. It's just like
sorry, hold on. You do realise that is actually their rebuttal, right?
Go on.
The straight is curved. Another shout out to Bev for dealing with that crap all day long. That's what he has to deal with all day long.
You mean bendizontal?
You got it. I was waiting for you to say it. Indeed you do. Bendizontal. That's correct. That's the crap that Bev has to deal with all day long. That's right.
Okay. And so earlier in the show, at the very beginning, when Neil says, I mean, I went on this show and I mean, what do you got to do? And I piped in and said, next. If I hear that crap, I'm just going to say next. I'm not talking to a fool like that. If you can't even define the terms and be on the same page on what an angle is, discussion is over right there. I would have to have a concession from every baller, anti-flat earther, to what an angle is to its true definition before I continue with them. I wouldn't even bother telling them anything else.
No, what you get then is a slur against the show that we're on, that we're in a cesspool.
So a diversion, not so to look so foolish as to try to redefine what an angle is, are you saying?
Yeah, that's exactly what he's saying.
Yeah, and the moderator was with me up until that point. He told Jazzy, you failed to prove that the phases of the moon proves a spherical Earth. But on the other hand, that cesspool that Neil's in called the Nathan Oakley Show. So there you go.
Well, in sports, I was a wrestler, and obviously other sports work this way as well. When it's time for you to compete and you don't show up, we call that a forfeit. In golf, if your tee time is 9 o'clock, they give you 5 minutes. After that, you're disqualified. So if it's 3 people playing a hole at a time, 2 golfers are on that hole. The third guy didn't show up, he gets disqualified. We're nearing 5 minutes since I asked that question.
I would prefer you just called that at the end of each show. You want to call this one? Yeah, there was no globe believers that came on and attempted to prove we've got a physical sphere edge or Earth turns beneath footballs and bullets. And there was no anti-flat earthers that joined and challenged us that Earth doesn't turn under bullets and we don't have a physical Earth curve edge. So, you know, nobody came to challenge us, really. I mean, I'd call that a victory. And I think we should start rubbing that in their faces.
I like that.
The other thing I noticed, because...
right?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, where's Rumpus? Maybe he's, you know...
Banned?
Bottom hurt.
No, he got banned.
No, they're all hanging out at Gem Pandas. All chatting shit
Well,
in
what
there.
are they? Well, what are their arguments against the section?
There isn't any. Literally, there isn't
No,
any.
they're talking about the scientific method. That's what they're talking about.
Boy.
And spaceships in space and all sorts of stuff.
Oh, cool. Nice to know we're pulling a few strings. So we mentioned that we were going to do a show on Ballbusters this coming Saturday that will cover science and the scientific method. Because a lot of people forget after a few months when we cover it last that's what science is, and you claim to have it for the globe. But then when we point out you haven't, you tell us science doesn't prove things and other horse shit like that.
They're saying QE's scientific method, the 4-step method, is not correct and stuff like that. But yeah.
Yeah, their version's got tell a story, ignore, cause as part of the method. Yeah, I know their method. They say that science has advanced beyond empirical proof of cause. It's now just us adapting our stories when needs be.
So what
they're saying is observation is science.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
It's part of the method. Yeah, observation of phenomena, something occurring, for you to say, what's causing that? So observation of phenomena is the first step. But they just have, in their heliocentric pseudoscience, observation, and then Jack and Nori story time.
Yeah, they say astronomy is science. Well, some of it is and some of it isn't. Right? Or not?
No, none of it is. We ask daily. This is another example of head in the sand, ignore things that are repeated over and over and over and over and over again daily. So we ask for any viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics. Why? Well, because they just look at lights and give them names and tell stories about them. Well, obviously, if you've got no science to offer, far easier to say, well, no, we've advanced beyond empirical proof. We can do better than empiricism, says the person that hasn't got it. Our science adapts. It's beautiful stories about lights in the sky. That's science now. Go on, Neil.
Astronamer.
Yeah, astronomers, right.
So, astronamer. Wow. Yeah. So if you think, well, you know, I understand, I sympathize as a person who believed in this stuff. To hear someone say, well, you know, all of that is BS, that whole department, you're like, whoa. There's tons and tons of info in my mind that comes straight from there, right? But the bottom line is, if you say, okay, what is the proof? You are going to have to presuppose the thing that you're trying to prove always when it comes to astrophysics. You're not gonna be determining any causes of anything. You're gonna be assuming that what you're looking at is what you're looking at.
Well, the word astro immediately implies very specific aspects of that presuppositional model. It literally invokes all of that instantly.
But could you argue that? Could you argue that observations is part of science, and technically the globe side are correct because they are using the scientific method slightly?
It's called a fallacy of composition. Taking part of it and expressing it as unilateral for the whole. In this case, observation is part of the scientific method. So you take it out of context and say, well, therefore, observation is science. No, it's part of science, part of a method. It's the first step if something occurs. So if observation is science, let's just take it through the logical steps of what they're implying. So observation is science. Let's just take their standpoint. So I look at something. Science! That makes sense to you?
What about the answering the question after that?
What about it? You said observation is science. Well, no.
Yeah,
observation is observing things.
If they make the observation, then answer a question, then form a hypothesis, then make a prediction, then test it, and then obviously find out the results.
Perfect.
Is that correct?
That's good enough if your question's about something occurring, because otherwise the hypothesis fails. Because a hypothesis is a supposition of cause based on phenomena. So as soon as you drop the word hypothesis in there, well, then you've got an IV-DV relationship and a null. Well, that's a supposition yet to be validated, and you're going to be requiring an experiment to prove the cause of the effect, immediately excluding anything man-made, synthetic, the cause, a man made it. So that limits it to naturally occurring phenomena. So therefore, step one, not observation, observation of phenomena that you want to study. What caused that? I wonder why that happens. That's what science deals with. Naturally occurring phenomena that you want to establish the cause of. For example, men come back from sea dying. And you go, I wonder why that happens. And then you can employ a method. I think the cause is lack of iron. So you vary the amount of iron in their diet and see if it helps. And it doesn't. They still keep dying. And then you think, oh, I wonder if it's a lack of fruit. So you give them all oranges, and what do you know? They don't die. Now you can take that as an IV-DV relationship and call the cause oranges. But upon further explanation, you'd actually find out there's a specific element within it, i.e. vitamin C, and the lack of it causes scurvy. That would be a cause and effect relationship validatable by scientific inquiry and experimentation. That's validation of predicted cause of an effect that you have observed in nature. That's what medicine's based on. Now, don't get me wrong, Adam's not here to challenge me and say, no, we do take group sets and give me all the justifications for the medical reasonings behind why they do certain things in certain ways. And I don't care, it doesn't change what science is. And science is exclusively interested in elucidation of the cause of an effect observed in nature. That's what it does. As soon as they say, oh, well, yeah, you ask a question. Well, about what? Well, about what the cause of an effect is, because that's what a hypothesis is. And they've got it in that description you just gave me.
Nathan, don't we have... hang on. Nathan, don't we have a perfect case study in gravity? They told everybody gravity was mass attract mass. It was a force. Now, 106 years later, they say, you know what? In 1915, they say, no, we were wrong. So everyone prior to 1915, it was under the impression when they observed something falling, that was mass attracting mass, and it was a force. From 1915 to now, everyone knows, and when I say everybody, I use that loosely, that gravity is not a force. So the observation alone, hey, that thing's falling. Why is it falling? Someone says today gravity. You hear it all the time in sports. Oh, gravity took the ball. They don't, it's just observation. You haven't proven anything. And if gravity is now regulated as a non-force force, there's not anything, the whole thing, all those years, all those school books, all those people were lied to because they took observation and came up with something that was real.
Right, so this was talked about a few days ago with Eli. It's a mistake to take the hypothesis and utilize it as an explanation. So your hypothesis has two sides to it. One is your presumed cause of the effect. And the presumed cause in this instance is going to be A. So if A, my presumed cause, the thing I suppose, because I don't know yet, causes the effect I observed. Yep. So my supposition of cause is if A, then B. B is the effect I observed in nature. Oh, look at that. That would be B. What caused that? That would be the effect I'm calling B. So if A, my supposition, then B. It also has a null. And it is the antithesis of your alternative. So instead of if A, my presumed cause, then B, the effect, it is if A, my presumed cause, upon variation, not B. That is called a null. Now, when you validate your hypothesis, that would be to perform an experiment. The validation of the hypothesis, the systematic experimentation stage, establishes whether or not you, I'm going to say this very clearly, prove your alternative or, alternatively, prove your null. That is why science is empirical. Now, I'm getting to my point. I will address your point in a moment. So at the end of the process, that's an experiment. You prove something. There are no exceptions. It violates the law of contradiction to have, non-contradiction, to have if A then B and if A not B. You cannot have both at the same time. Only one will be true. True, proven. That's what science does, prove things. So we've established that science proves things and one or other null or alternative gets proven upon experimentation. Now, let's rewind to pre-experiment. All we have is the presumed cause, that's my A, and the effect we observed, that would be B. And instead of having a null, the antithesis of that statement, we just get rid of it and forget about it. Now we've just got if A, then B. Now let's forego the experiment stage completely and rearrange that to be a statement rather than a supposition. Now it's A, therefore B. So now we've got A as the cause, because the hypothesis has been mistaken for an explanation. And no validation, no empirical process has been employed to validate that A does in fact cause B, because the experiment stage has been completely forgoed in favour of something that they call a hypothesis, and is in fact a presupposition. Hope that's clear.
I have a question about that.
Say again?
Just a question. So if, let's like take the boiling water example. So if heat then boiling water, if heat then not boiling water. So if heat then boiling water, but what if you hijack it and you put like if heat then boiling water, but it has to be a certain temperature, right? So you could do then if heat then not
correct.
boiling water.
Yes, you're correct. Those are called control variables.
So how do you know, like, how can you determine when something has been hijacked? Because someone could be like, oh yeah, see, if heat, then not boiling water, because it didn't boil the water, but heat was applied. So I feel like that people can, like the magicians can hijack that sort of thing and trick you. Cause
no, well, they can.
If heat, then not water.
Yes, that's correct. But you're asking about a formal, proper hypothesis, and it would be formulated with not just if heat, then boiling water. It would say, if heat at a given altitude, then water will boil at this particular temperature with all other things held equal. That would be everything held under control. Now, obviously, there are certain things that are outside of your knowledge. Therefore, how do you know you've kept everything under control? Well, that is why it's systematic experimentation and not just one, because there are other people that will employ the method that may vary other things that they inadvertently didn't realise they were varying when they did it by themselves. Hence, systematic experimentation. And you would scrutinise the controls upon that process. So while that isn't explicitly stated, yes, absolutely, you do have an IV, DV, CV relationship. Now, we focus on the IV, DV as opposed to the IV, DV, CV. That would be independent variable, your presumed cause of the effect, what I was formerly calling A. Dependent variable, that would be your phenomena, formerly labelled B. And CV, everything else that will be held constant so as to not affect the test. Now, obviously, if there's something that you're not aware of that's affecting the test and you think you have everything under control, that will come under scrutiny because there are various other things that you don't describe. So for the sake of argument, if you didn't mention the elevation as a control variable and then someone took it up much higher, then I don't see how that would actually screw your effect in a negative way. But there we go. I'm just saying you could vary something that was not seen as a control variable or mentioned in the hypothesis as a control that did get varied without the knowledge of the person performing the experiment. Hence, systematic experimentation, not just experiment, singular.
Okay. Because the reason I'm thinking about this, and I don't want to derail this too much, is because what's going on in society right now is there's a thing that begins with a V. I'm not going to say what it is. And that another thing that begins with a V is going to cure you, right? So they're saying, like, what I'm thinking is, if V, then illness, and then they're saying, okay, now also inject V into you to not have illness, right? So if V, then illness, then and then also if V, then not illness. Right?
Okay, right, stop. You don't have to talk in code, right? If you're talking about COVID and vaccinations, right, fine, just say it. I have no issue with you talking about current events. People are getting vaccines and there is currently COVID. So no worries, you don't have to not say those words on this show. It's not a discussion forum for those particular topics, so that's not going to get discussed. But what I will say to your point to round it out, hopefully you won't continue to badger me about this particular subject because I don't want to cover it, is that this applies unilaterally. That means always to everything. If somebody is claiming science, you can do your investigation or ask your questions into or the exact same things we cover here. So, what do we ask here in terms of a claim that we have gravitation? The first question that should be off your lips if you understand the scientific method is, what was the observed phenomena? What occurred in nature? What did we see happening? That's the first question. Then, what do you think is the cause of that which we see happening? And then, did you vary that which you at this point only assume, presume, suppose is the cause? Did you vary it and show that it did cause it? Because if so, that's science. If not, but called science, then it's pseudoscience. What is pseudoscience? Well, it would be a claim of science that has not been through the scientific method. That is the definition of pseudoscience. So if you hear science and it hasn't been through the method, it is pseudoscience. Just got to be careful, do your research, look into these things, find out. Often you'll assume there's no science for certain things and then you will be proven wrong. And it is backed by science. For example, germ theory. There's that word, theory. Yeah, that's because it's based on science. They've actually performed experiments, and Geo Schreiber was held over the coals by Betty on this exact subject, because he was under the misapprehension that this had something to do with maths, when it was based on scientific empiricism and actual theory. That is to say, it came after the experimental validation. So no maths, only science. That would be proven causes of effects experienced in nature. So you might think, oh, this is all nonsense. Germs? Yeah, I'm afraid so. They do actually have science for that. That's right. It is actually something that you could fear and could kill you. That's right. It is a real thing. It does exist in nature. There are germs.
Well, you can observe germs, right? You can observe microbes.
You can, but you can also show their effect and their causal relationship by way of systematic hypothesis-based experimentation. That's where we get our germ theory from.
Which is separate and different from what is characterized as a virus, correct?
It is in a categorization. Don't just poo-poo this stuff, right? There's nothing wrong with conventions. That's what you're driving at, right? There's nothing wrong with that. It's only when people work outside of the convention that it becomes a problem. Now, can we change the subject? This is relevant to everything we discuss on the show. If it's tied to what we're talking about, as opposed to this segues off onto a medical discussion, at the moment, contextually, this is perfectly within the context and confines of nature of the Earth, because we're dealing with science. That's what we cover here. However, I just don't want this subject to segue back into a medical discussion, which this is not.
No, that's not why I brought it up. I brought it up because I can apply it to both things, and to understand it properly is how I can use it the best.
Unilaterally. If you hear them, and I'll give a different example, hopefully this will segue us away for the final point, for the final time. If you hear Michelin, I haven't said Michelin has done this, this isn't my claim, as an example by Michelin saying, the science of Michelin tyres gives you better grip. Cut to test driver on a track testing tyres. Well, he's testing them, isn't he? He's experimenting with them, isn't he? No, he's not. Colloquially, you could say that the word experimentation is like kids experimenting with wheelies on their bicycles. But in a context of science, a test is an experiment. It's a hypothesis test when verbalized in the name of science. So testing, no, is not varying a presumed cause and effect he has seen in nature. This isn't something we see in nature. We don't tend to see BMW M3s drifting in nature. So your tyres are definitely not going to be scientific by nature because they're man-made. So nothing you tell me about their testing is ever going to result scientifically in anything other than the cause being established as a man making them. So it's not science. But next time you hear that word used to describe a tyre, and I use this as an example because I have heard it used in that way, then you can go, hang on a minute, science deals with natural phenomena. No, science can deal with the synthetic. Well, we know what has caused the synthetic, and man made it. You already know the cause, so no. This is not science. It's outside the purview of science. It's outside the remit of science. It's not for science to be utilised with because it's not science. You can't science a man-made phenomena. Grip on a tyre being an example. I hear it all day. I moan at my wife all day about this. This is something that annoys me. Usually on adverts or on promos. You know, some techie will be talking about... I've got a guy I subscribed to recently because I was looking at microphones. And I just happened to like his dry sense of humour, so I subscribed to the guy. Moans and is very dry and sarcastic and tells his subs to get lost. I just find that amusing. Anyway, this particular dude, while he's talking about microphone measurements, he's talking about the science. Most people haven't looked into the science of the mics. What are you babbling about? The science of the mics? You mean the measurement of the mics? You mean the maths of the mics? Not the establishment of cause. Not independent and dependent variable and control variables established with a null, validated by systematic experimentation, because that's science. Looking at the measurements and frequency response, that's maths. Let's get it straight. But to them, having a really good idea about how a mic should look on a frequency response graph, that's science to them. It isn't.
How about when people say microphones are a result of science? Does that make sense?
You tell me what science has resulted in a microphone. That would be what phenomena was observed in nature and a hypothesis formed to establish the cause of that phenomena that resulted in a microphone. If you can tell me what that was, it will be so many steps away from the actual manufacturing and production of a microphone that it will be untrue. It'll be at least 6 steps away. Hey, Adam. We're talking about the science of microphones. What an oxymoron that is.
I was about to pick you up, but there you go. So I'm stuck at work. I've just been listening and the show's ended, so I've just managed to jump back in. But
well, you had a mention. You had a mention. So we're talking about science, and I said if Adam was here, he'd probably call me up on the fact that I said that not all medical science is science, although it will still come under that banner if it's.
Medicine's not.
Customers coming through. Go on.
I just go straight with that. Medicine is not science. It's as simple as that. It's medicine. It might have elements of science for you to make your medical decision, but it's not science. In most cases, medicine's kind of what makes you sick. It's correlation based. It's probability based. It's outcome. You know, what's the most likely. Trouble with humans is they don't respond too well with cause and effect because they're humans. So a lot of medicine is based on, you know what I mean? It's not a direct take this, it will do that. There is cause and effect in like now the way the drugs work, but even the way in which the drug then plays out in the human isn't cause and effect. Different people have different side effects, different effects, etc. So yeah, there's plenty of science in medicine, but medicine isn't science.
Indeed. And it's the same with a technology-based argument. You can easily argue that certain aspects of your microwave have come from science, but that doesn't make a microwave science. And likewise, there's plenty of aspects of medicine that have come from scientific discovery. It doesn't make the pills science.
That is a lot of it. The formulation side, that's just technology again, isn't it? There's bits of science behind the technology, but actually the formulation and all those things is just technology.
And some might argue that it's in more ways than one more creative for many, if not all, with one exception, aspects of science. So for most of the people that are following that procedure, there's actually only one genius in that process. But there's plenty of work to be done. Plenty of people that can legitimately call themselves scientists. Your researcher that's varying and manipulating the cause of the effect, that is definitely, arguably, labelable as scientist, right? But the guy who actually comes up with a new invention, a piece of technology that does something that didn't exist prior, so you could take anything, invention of broadcast television for the sake of argument, you go, wow, that is genius. To take something that didn't exist and bring it into existence by your mere will. That's fantastic. Doesn't make him God, before anyone gets the wrong idea. But I'm just saying, in the scientific method, it's the person who will get closer and closer to the actual cause of the effect through research and experience and all the rest of the things QE would be telling me about now. No, it's not just genius. He hasn't just guessed right. You know, they're researchers. They're looking to get closer and closer and closer. But there is still somebody somewhere that has to say, I think it's this. My research points me towards it being this. Let's try and vary that and see if it does cause the effect. And they vary it, and it does. But that is the individual singular bit of genius in that. Whereas development of a product might take a whole team of geniuses on all different aspects of the electronics to make it into a functioning piece of equipment to actually become a consumer device to sell. And in many ways, you could say that is more awe-inspiring than all of the people involved in the actual methodology, the bringing to fruition, the actualization of the hypothesis, which is still science, no doubt about that. But the actualization bit could be taken by, could be done by, could be performed by, enact by somebody who hasn't actually determined the cause of that effect when they vary it So, which is more awe-inspiring? For me, a lot of the times it's the technology. It's just not science. Doesn't mean it's not cool. Doesn't mean it's not good. Doesn't mean it's all lies. Doesn't mean technology is bad. Quite the contrary. So microphone's good. Frequency response is good. Science? No, it's not science. Why poison this beautiful microphone by calling it science? Looking forward to Ballbusters, Adam?
We're on this Sunday, aren't we? This is the last one for a bit, isn't it? Because John's off on his millionaire's playground he's off to, isn't he? Oh, bloody phone won't stop today. So, yeah, I can't wait, mate, because it's obviously that our request, isn't it, of what we specified we think would be quite nicely covered. I think it's scientific method, and he's going to do a little bit of natural law, isn't he, and explain the similarities, the differences, and, you know, where and what each means. But I think it'd be useful for guys. So
indeed. Well, it was me that wanted to suggest it, and then somebody else from the Discord server had suggested that we could also include natural law, and it's like, well, why don't we just juxtapose the two, because there's often a lot of confusion, and it's normally QE that spots this as opposed to me. I'm not trying to get any credit for this, but I just spotted it was creeping in again, people abusing the terminology and vernacular of science to make their just so stories seem a little bit more legitimate. In other words, obviously our anti-flat earth opponents are reluctant to relinquish this beautiful magic wand that we have taken away from them. That magic wand being just say science when you make up a story, and people will much more easily believe you. Hey, Brian.
It was me that did the amendment to what you'd ask you, because the previous week it was noticeable, and you were arguing with somebody who was saying, well, yeah, but what if it turns out that you can have gas pressure without a container, that natural law is wrong? What if? And it was just that's why I added that in, because it was almost, we don't understand what science is. We're clearly accepting that pseudoscience can mean science if we think that science could possibly change. And I don't think the comprehension that, or the idea that people don't differentiate between a natural law and a scientific discovery. There's nothing scientific about natural law, but that's not to make it more or less valid. It just sits in its own level of validity, that it's never been disproven. But again, to me, that's the point that I think wants getting over, how those categories sit and don't contradict, but support each other in our understanding.
Because it's intentional. There's a hijacking of a particular word when describing laws of nature. So I don't know when to ascribe the date. I'm sure QE would probably know better if I was to ask him, but I got high praise for this last time I mentioned it. But they now call them scientific laws, and they're not. You know, that's a bastardization again of what is science. So to describe something is a law if it occurs always. How well you describe it is down to the veracity of the law. But ultimately speaking, the law itself is merely a description of something that occurs always. So number one, it must occur always. If it doesn't occur always, it's not a law. It is that simple. But because they are merely, I use the word intentionally, descriptions of things that occur always, they are not explanations of things. So there is no explanation for why entropy increase will occur. Why will gas fill the available volume? I don't know. I haven't got the cause for that. That's why
it's been called a scientific law now.
They just call them scientific laws. Yeah. Have you not heard that? Have you not heard that terminology used?
Well, maybe I'll probably not recognise it and just thought somebody's just, prattling and not really know what they're saying. Because there's a big distinction. One's a natural law in that it happens always. There's no science involved in that. Nobody has never, ever has anybody scienced a natural law.
Well, the word science has been hijacked the same way perspective has been hijacked.
Yes.
So that when people hear the word, they misapply it. Science, it's just a method. But when you say, oh, this, therefore science, there's no methodology behind that. You're just using some word as this magic cue. When people hear it, it's like magic.
Exactly. But it is a process which starts with descriptions being called science, but without that being refutable or challengeable. Well, if you've got descriptions of things that occur always under the banner of science, it opens the floodgates to start describing things and calling your description science. Well, like a law. So you end up with laws of gravitation. The problem is that an actual law of nature is inviolable. It occurs always regardless. So inviolable laws don't get debunked by gas, as is the case with gravity. So these laws that they have hijacked and called science are real laws, i.e. they are inviolable things that occur always, and just the descriptions of them. But that doesn't make them science, i.e. an established cause has been attained through systematic experimentation. But if you call it science, and then start doing the same thing with things that you haven't got an explanation for, like lights in the sky, you can call, under a subheading or a banner for the education department, you can call those things science. The science of astronomy. And then suddenly the full chain, the full circle is complete, and you've got some validity being lended to people who understand, because they've been taught at a very early age that science is empirical, that they're just so story is science. Well, it's a science story, like a law, meaning it's definitely true and will be right always. That's the implication when they hijack the terms, as has been described very eloquently, I might add, by Eli a moment ago. Correct, Eli?
But they, hey everybody, hey Nathan. Them calling gravity a law allowed them so much more wiggle room, as they weren't in a position. Technically, they weren't in a position then to have to validate it. What I mean is, they don't try and validate the cause of entropy because they don't know the cause of entropy. But they also claimed before Einstein not to know, and they still do claim not to know the origin or cause of gravity. So they're calling gravity a law because they can't validate its cause. But that's because it doesn't exist, because gravity doesn't exist. But they can't validate the cause of that, what they describe, or the effects they describe as entropy, because they just don't know the cause. Not because the cause doesn't exist. It obviously exists because all the effects exist. But when it comes to gravity, they claim effects as being caused by gravity. And then they start claiming that gravity is an effect, and they switch it about. But they never go and actually find a cause of gravity. If you look at gravity as a force or gravity as the effect, but pre and post Einstein, they never try and find the cause or the actual cause. They just, like even Einstein, he claimed what Einstein did was he claimed a cause to an effect that he never defined. What is this effect that he's defining? So he just claimed a cause before he ever showed any effect or defined an effect. The whole thing is so convoluted. So they make the thing so convoluted that it's easy for them to call it a law because it becomes too big for anyone to handle or tackle. When the truth is just it doesn't exist. It's very simple. It's not a law because the question is real. Gravity science? Is gravity science? The answer is no.
Is gravity a phenomena? The answer is no.
Yeah. Exactly.
Is gravity the cause of bending pseudo-4 space in maths? Yes. But that only exists in the maths and has absolutely no bearing on your day-to-day life. Anthony summed this up for me beautifully. So he's like, do unicorns eat grain in unicorn world? Answer, yes they do. You can't dispute that or disprove it. Likewise, does space-time bend in pseudo-Riemannian 4 space, Brian?
Yes, Nathan, it does.
Yes, it does. And do we exist in Unicorn world?
Nope.
Do we exist in pseudo-4 space?
Nope.
Exactly. So, I said you'd be far better off using a juxtaposition with your Narnia wardrobe time dilation, because it's a story that people can understand, that you cannot argue with the fact that there is a time dilation issue when you go through the wardrobe. That is beyond question. That's a fact. However, we don't live in Narnia, so it doesn't really matter. Likewise, does time bend in pseudo-4 space? That would be Einsteinian gravity. Oh, yes, sorry, it does. But we don't exist in pseudo-4 space. It's conceptual maths. That's why it's got the word pseudo at the beginning.
I think I might have heard a baller.
Ultimately, they're saying, just real quick, that the patterns in the sky that we observe are supposed to be caused by gravity. And there's obviously no way to validate that scientifically. That's as simple as it gets.
Well, it can't be the case in current rhetoric, because gravity is not a cause, it's an effect in the current rhetoric. So I don't think that's the case. You might have heard that from an anti-flat earther.
Oh, yes.
There
you go.
Is there any evidence of astrology and astronomy being not scientific by anyone?
No, it's the other way around. In order for them to say it is scientific, they just need to present, as we ask for, a valid hypothesis. We're not even asking for them to provide experimental data that's valid, just the hypothesis. In other words, just the supposition of cause and the null will do. Now, we've been asking for that for 2 years. So what do you think? If you want to claim your science, if I want to say, I'm looking at a chair right now, I am actually looking at a chair. My kid's chair has got antlers for a back. I've looked at it. I've made the observation. That's science. Right? Now I've made that claim now. Therefore, it's down to me to back my claim of it being science. Well, we know what science is. We've just talked about it. So if you want to say astronomy is science, okay. Well, what was the observed phenomena? What was the presumed cause? What was the null? Give us the full hypothesis. Who did the systematic experimentation? Where are the results published? That's what you ask.
Perfect. I understand that now. Thanks.
Their burden, right? Now, obviously, if you already know the story that they're going to come up with, then, just play with them. Why not? You know what science is. Great. Tell me all about it. And point out when they're wrong.
I think there's people in those fields who really would like to be able to show the cause of the effects, but they never will be able. So they want to be science, or to be able to produce scientific hypothesis, but they can't. What I don't like. They're not going to come up with I don't think they'll ever come up with a hypothesis, because how can they claim a cause when they have no idea? They can just look at it. That's it. But you can't do any more than that.
Yeah, observation and declaration is what they claim to be their advancement in what was just dusty old empiricism. Now we've got great stories. It's far more advanced.
If someone
maybe
says,
astronomy can...
Go on, sorry.
Maybe astronomers can establish new natural laws, though. That's what I'm thinking.
What, if you observe something occurring always, you could describe it? Yeah?
Yeah, exactly. So maybe there's a natural law out there that they can find, and we can use one day.
But it's just something that, once it's described, again, while it might be eloquent, and it might be accurate, it will merely be a description of something that you have always watched occur. So, it's not, the thing that's occurring is never going to be a revelation, because it's going to be, if it's a natural law, something that you have always observed occurring anyway. But
can we say that the sunrise is a natural law, that the sun will always rise?
I would call that a phenomenon. Sun's a phenomenon. an intangible phenomenon. My point being, that's an effect. Now, you will hear the cause of that effect asserted often. Heliocentric, actual globe rhetoric. Coriolis deviation. That is the claim of the sunrise. It's a Coriolis claim. Earth turns beneath the sun to cause it to rise as you turn underneath at 15 degrees an hour. So they're claiming Coriolis effect. Oh, so we've got a cause and effect relationship then. Yeah, then we're going to need science. Some empirical validation for this cause and effect relationship you're claiming. What's their claim cause? Earth rotation. Oh, really? How are you going to vary that?
By coming off the Earth?
That's a presupposition to begin with. Number one, even if it was true, you can't vary the spin of their heliocentric Earth, can you?
No.
Let's rephrase it. Can you vary the rate that the sun moves?
Nope.
So you have no control over an independent variable that would cause that dependent variable to change in any way.
Correct.
Right. They say that the independent variable is Earth turn. The cause of the effect of the sun moving, they're claiming a cause and effect relationship. Therefore, inside the remit of science. Remember, science exclusively deals with cause and effect relationships observed in nature. So what have we got here? An effect observed in nature and a causal relationship being asserted. Oh, well, this sounds like if A, Earth turn, a presupposition, then B, sun rises. Where's the null? Where's the systematic experimentation? Oh no, what we've done is we've mistaken a hypothesis, half a hypothesis, for an actual explanation now, haven't we? Let's just forget about the experiment. Let's forget about the null. Let's just call it science anyway. Oh, they do! This is heliocentric astronomy now, isn't it? So it's literally called science, and it's mistaken an invalidated or not validated, yet to be validated hypothesis as an explanation. If A, then B. If Earth turn, then sunrise. No null, no experiment, no systematic validation of the assumption. The if A is not validated.
So it wouldn't be science, but let's say that the Earth was spinning, and that was like the if A and B. It wouldn't be science, but that would be, and it was true though. That would be deductive reasoning, right?
Well, you got to start at the start. Always start. Question one: what's the phenomena? This is claimed, if you're going to assert it as a ball-believing idiot, as a proof of Earth turn. Well, Earth turn, of course. Sunrises and sunsets, flat Earth idiot. So this is claimed to be their proof. So if you're claiming science, now in this explanation I haven't got the funding to actually say science, so I'll do that now. Sunrises, sunsets, that's science. There we go, done. Right? Well, then you've got a cause and effect relationship that you can hold them to account on. What's the first question you should ask? What's the phenomena? Now, is the phenomena Earth turning or the sun moving? Oh, it's the sun coming up in the morning. So, precisely dick to do with their presupposition that Earth turn's got something to do with this. That's inserted afterwards. But if you were to put that through science, you would be studying the cause of the sun's appearance. In other words, you need to vary something that causes that effect to happen. That would be to science it. That isn't what they're doing when they make a presuppositional if A, that would be Earth turn presupposition, then 15 degrees an hour drift underneath the sun to cause it to appear to move across the sky. You with me?
Yep.
That's a little mini ballbusters right there, if anyone's watching the after show.
And if the Earth was turning, then we would have Earth-based Coriolis to observe.
That's correct. That is the claim.
Yep. Correct, but not just with the sun.
No, footballs and bullets would do it also. And again, that is the claim.
Well, that's the claim of the globe tards, but not the claim of the anti-flat earthers.
That is correct. The globe claims 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth turns beneath for you to observe a not actual deflection known as Coriolis effect. As you turn beneath. I'll highlight and stress that you can only observe that effect if you turn beneath things. And it's claimed Earth has that effect, meaning you must turn beneath to see the effect. However, as 10th Man is highlighting, anti-flat earthers, with their pain and their cognitive dissonance, having been force-fed a blue pill, was it red or blue? Red pill. Having been forced a red pill that they didn't want to swallow, now tell us Earth doesn't turn underneath, even though it's claimed that it does by the globe. So yes, 10th. Anti-flat earthers claim the complete opposite of a globe claim. It's amazing. They pretty much, in many ways, stand by us. They say one reference frame, no drift to see. Just like we do. It's amazing, really. That's why I put flat earth in their title, anti-flat earthers. Because a lot of the time, they're saying the same thing we are. They just seem to think it's okay to reposition their claim, which is the same as ours, against us. So, example, we say, what are you talking about? Muppet vision. No, we see with optics. And they later on say, it's just optics. We go, that's our argument. Why are you telling us there's no optics in your maths? But there we go, that's anti-flat earthers for you.
How long have you been doing your show, Nathan?
I don't know, a long time.
Give me a number.
This show, 3 or 4 years.
Okay. I think you've earned the right with anybody who wants to be a moderator that they put an expert on with you with credentials. Because you, in your show, in your panel, have got anti-flat earthers fighting with globers. And that is no small feat to achieve. So to settle this contradiction, we need experts in the field to debate Nathan Oakley. No more anti-flat earthers who live in denial, or globers without degrees, or, like a Neil deGrasse Tyson would be perfect.
Well, thank you, 10th, for appealing for Neil deGrasse Tyson to come and debate me. I really do appreciate that. I'm flattered. But with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, hitting the PayPal link, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.